All right, grace and peace, everybody. No intro tonight. We are going to jump right in. Um, we won't have any slides or displays due to some issues with ProPresenter that extended from this past Sunday. But nonetheless, we are prepared and we are ready. Just be prepared to take notes, jot your references down, your scriptures down. I don't have the luxury of having slides tonight. But if you notice, the title of the lesson tonight is going to be Tending Your Garden. I want to kind of play off of what we were discussing a little bit on this past Sunday. I got quite a bit of feedback from this past Sunday's message, and I want to kind of just glean from that just a little bit. So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are still, I would say, in the spirit of Valentine's Day weekend. Love is still in the air, if you will. So, we want to talk a little bit more about relationships, but more so about how we stand alone, how we evaluate ourselves, how we tend to our garden. So we have some scripture references. We have some things that we want you to jot down and take to memory. And I believe it's going to really help us. Some profound things that I believe, in my opinion, that's really going to help us when we're talking about standing alone, having that confidence, that assurance, those type things when we're talking about knowing who we are, being confident in who we are in God, those type things. So continue to greet one another as you come in. And as always, if you would, please let's help out with someone else who may want to join us. And also let's help out with the algorithm as well. So make sure as you're coming in that you are, of course, liking and tagging. But most of all, let's make sure that you are sharing this session tonight. Again, it really helps the algorithm when you share, when you like, when you tag, when you comment, when you interact, when you engage with the lesson tonight. It really helps out with our reach and getting that algorithm where it needs to be. So we are grateful to have all of you on already. I'll just make mention of this real quick. We are grateful to God for giving us traveling graces on this past Sunday for the couples that went with us to Jacksonville, Florida. We had a wonderful time, a great time of fellowship. Ran into a little bit of bad weather on the way back home, but nonetheless, God was great. God was kind and gracious to us, giving us traveling grace coming there and back. So we're just grateful to God for that opportunity. Again, we want to remind you all of this coming Sunday service. It's going to be our Black History service coming up, and I'm going to mention this again. I don't want you to be limited to just African attire. That is also a part of what we're going to be wearing on this coming Sunday. But also, you are more than welcome to wear something that has Black emphasis. Um, when we're talking about Black excellence, Black pride, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, um, Martin Luther King, you name it. Those people that played an integral part in our Black history that extends back to the era and the times that really allowed us the privileges and the opportunities that we have today. And if you want to extend a little bit further back to African attire, by all means, please, man, please, sir, do so. But I just want to let you know that you're not just limited to African attire. Something that has a message on that shirt, a message as you're wearing whatever that is, that message that you want to relay that deals with, I would put it this way, Black excellence and Black pride. So I'll mention that again at the end of this session tonight, but we're just about ready to jump in, let somebody know that we are on and we are ready to go. Again, there was no intro. There will be no ProPresenter tonight, which is fine. So we're just going to, at the end of this session, we're just going to cut it so there will be no outro as well. How many of you are still gleaning from the sermon, the service from this past Sunday? If you would give me the appropriate response virtually, thumbs up, hand clap, whatever that is that you would like to do. Let me know that, hey, Pastor, I was blessed, informed, encouraged by the message on this past Sunday for Valentine's Day weekend. I want to know that, what type of, I like to know what type of, I like to get a response, if you will, from people from time to time. to see, kind of gauge where we are, what the people need, what they're getting from it. And again, from the feedback that I got Monday and Tuesday, I just felt that it would be helpful to just, discuss it just a little bit more. All right. I think I saw the Sister Tamaja on here. I want to say, I will say this publicly about continue to pray for our dear Brother Eddie McGill. I won't give you the details on that, but most of you already know that he was in an accident some days ago, and we're going to keep you posted on his status and how things are going. Just be mindful. I think his phone has been off for a while, but nonetheless, we've been communicating through the grandchildren, the children, and all is well, thank the Lord. But we will give you further details as we receive them, and also as it is deemed to be appropriate to announce it amongst the family. Just want to give you guys a thought about that when I saw Tamaja, and just wanted to let you all know that God is still in control, and all is well. So, especially our brothers, let's keep that in mind as we do our due diligence concerning our dear brother as well. All right. I think we're just about ready to go. We have hit our magic number. Now I'm telling y'all, you're going to want to, again, you're going to want to tag somebody, hit that share button. If everybody that's watching now would go ahead and hit that share button, you would really help somebody out tonight. I really believe. Because there are some things that have y'all should know by now. This is something that is near and dear to my heart, which is relationships. I can't recall a time that I preached a sermon where I didn't mention marriage, relationships at some point. So that just goes to tell you that this is something that has always been near and dear to my heart, something that I really value and I consider to be very important when it comes to relationships. I believe God has, favored us and blessed us to be in communion, to be in fellowship, to be connected to someone. It may not just be marriage, but in whatever that looks like in your space, that relationship that you have, brothers, sisters, friends, whatever. We're grateful to God for allowing us to have those. And as we said Sunday, they are one of the most challenging areas to steward over when we're talking about relationships. I mean, as rewarding and as gratifying as relationships can be, and they require a tremendous amount of investing and time and effort. It is the toughest job, that slogan that the Peace Corps had years ago. It is the toughest job that you'll ever love. And it's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to be difficult, because I believe that's something that is worth having. I believe that's something that we value. We should do our due diligence. We should do our best in investing in that thing. So kudos to you all for prioritizing your relationships. Kudos to you all for, I would say this, for having the wherewithal and the ability and the grace to stand alone well. So now with that being said, we'll just glean just a little bit from this past Sunday, jumping right in. From Genesis chapter 2, verses 15 through 23. I'll be looking at my tablet and my phone at the same time since I don't have ProPresenter up. Genesis chapter 2, verses 15 through 23. We're not going to read this verbatim, but just jot that down so you can glean from it. Go back and read it later once we discuss it just a little bit. This is just going to set a foundation before we jump right in. We understand that from this past Sunday that God gave Adam a purpose. He gave him responsibility before he gave him a partner. I'm going to say this again. Before God gave Adam a partner, he gave him responsibility. He gave him purpose in order to see how he managed purpose, how he operated in purpose before he gave him a partner. This is where we get this from when we talk about standing alone. Now, let me ask y'all this question real quick. How many of you did the homework assignment that I gave you all Sunday? I told you all to write at least 5 things that makes you, we use the term a good catch because we were talking about marriage and relationship in that way. But it doesn't have to be a good catch. Just who are you aside from your spouse, aside from your kids, aside from your friends? Just push all of that aside. And your assignment for this week was to write at least 5 things. Say, hey, this is what makes me a good catch. This is what makes me an attractive partner. This is what makes me um, what this is what would make someone want to be in my space, to be connected with me. Okay. So Quame says she posted hers. So you get extra credit for that. So if you did that, give me a response real quick. And if you haven't done it yet, I strongly advise you, encourage you to do that, because I've said this over the years as well. During a lot of my marriage counseling sessions, I've told people this: do not lose yourself in your marriage. Now, I'm going to reference marriage a lot tonight, okay? But this is not just solely just about marriage. It can apply to relationships in general. But I would always tell couples this: do not lose yourself. Do not lose who you are in the midst of that marriage. Here's what I mean by that. Who are you outside besides just having kids and being a mom and being a dad? Who are you other than just being someone's wife or someone's husband? I can't tell you how many times I've seen over the years where marriages suffer, relationships suffer, individuals suffer unnecessarily because they lose sight of who they are in the relationship. Here's something that I've also applied to the wedding officiant script that I've written over the years. You are to cherish and value your oneness, but you should also value your individual uniqueness. Did y'all catch that? I hope y'all got that. You should always absolutely value and cherish your oneness, but you should also value your individuality and your uniqueness. You never are supposed to lose who you are in a relationship. I'll give you an example. I'm more than just Lisa's husband. I'm more than just Asia's dad. I'm more than just a pastor. What did I tell you all Sunday? Without any of these variables, without any of these being a part of the equation, I am this. Y'all, and that's what you're supposed to write down. I am a man of integrity. I am a man of honesty. Um, I have, and I mentioned some of these things on the bus going to Jacksonville. And kudos to those who were on the bus who, took that challenge and they just shared that with everyone on the bus as to who they were outside of who they were as a spouse. Um, prideful as a man, because you should have you should be prideful as a man. You should want your own. You should want to have your own. You should want to make your own way. Those type things. I'm loyal, dependable, hardworking. Those are things that's who I am without anybody else occupying my space. And so, like I said Sunday, if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it. This is who I am with or without my wife in my life, because we were talking about marriage. This is who I'm going to be while she's here. And this is who I will continue to be, God forbid, if something happens and she leaves. So that's the $1 million question. Who are you as you stand alone without any other thing or anybody else being involved in who you are? Who are you? Are you trustworthy? Can you be depended on? I'm just throwing out examples. Are you punctual? Are you complimentary? Are you selfless? Those type things. Sister Morgan took the liberty of putting hers up on the screen as well. She says she's a woman of integrity, a good listener, independent, kind, and open to learn. I love those. And you should be able to list these things. And here's where that came up this Sunday. Oftentimes we talk about finding the right person. And I told you that's in my officiant scripts too, that I've written over the years. Often it's about, we talk about finding the right person, but really it's about you being the right person, because you can find the quote unquote right person and you still not be who you need to be for the right person. So what really matters is this: not just finding the right person. I want them to be this, I want her to be that, I want him to be this. No, who are you is what really matters, because who you are could determine the success or the failure of the relationship. So if you haven't done the homework yet, I encourage you to do that little assignment. Okay, do that little assignment. So Sophie's got she's strong minded. Okay, I saw somebody put independent, those type things. When the dust settles and the smoke clears, again, the pressing question is this: who are you? And I've even taken that thought when it comes to ministry, because I see oftentimes pastors lose themselves even in ministry. No, who are you outside of your title? Besides you working in ministry, who are you? Who are you? I know what people call you, and I know the title that you have, but push all of that aside. Let's just say, because it's a calling, it's an assignment. Let's say the assignment is over, the calling has been lifted, and it's all been said and done. Who are you? And it's sad to say that oftentimes people's identity become, in ministry, not so much about who they are, but what they do. I'm in ministry, I'm more than just what I do. That's my calling, that's my assignment. But there is more to me. There's more to who I am as a man than just being a preacher and a pastor and preaching and singing and all those different things like that. That's just one aspect of my life. God has graced me with that. God has gifted me to do those. Though He's given me that assignment. But outside of that, who are you? I always say this, and I'm going to get back to my notes and give you some more nuggets. I've always said this about my wife and I when it pertains to ministry. Ministry, and I don't know how some people take it. Haven't really got any necessary feedback on this, but I'm gonna share this with you. When it comes to ministry, church ministry, that is not the best parts of our life. Pausing for a reason on that. Ministry is not the best parts of our life. As husband and wife, my wife and I, the best parts of our lives is not ministry. Because watch this, one day this assignment will be over. Again, the calling will be lifted, the grace will be lifted. Do we enjoy? Absolutely. We enjoy ministry. We enjoy what God has called us to do. But that is not the best parts of our life. The best parts of our life, let me speak for myself. The best parts of my life is being a husband, being a father, being a friend. Those are the best parts of my life. Because oftentimes we think that the only thing that God gave us is ministry. No, God gave us relationships. God gave us special friends and connections. And those are things that I value more than just the assignment. Okay? Because watch this. My marriage, you've heard me say this over the years. My marriage, my relationships, my connections, my friendships, who I am as a man, all of those things complement how I do ministry. What did I tell y'all before? My first ministry is my marriage. My marriage use this as an example, it complements what God has called me to do. It enhances my ability to do what God has called me to do. If things are raggedy in my relationship at home, it's going to affect how we do ministry or don't do ministry for that matter. Y'all see where I'm going with this? Why? Because the best parts of my life is not ministry. Ministry is not my wife. Ministry is not my baby. Ministry is not my first priority. My wife is my first priority. My family is my first priority. Those connections in this earth, those are my people, connections that I have. Those are my first priorities. And watch this. And how I interact and how I manage and how I steward those relationships, they enhance or they affect negatively or positively how I do ministry. You see it all the time. People are so into ministry until their marriage go lacking. Relationships go lacking. How they interact with people is not honest. There's no integrity. There's no decency. And that seeps and it transfers over into the ministry and it contaminates the ministry. It hinders the ministry because we value ministry more than we do actual relationships. Y'all getting this? I know the chat went out for a minute. We having all kind of technical difficulties. But real quick, give me a thumbs up or some type of virtual response if you're tracking with me tonight. Your first priority, especially as husband and wife, your first priority, your first ministry should be your marriage, your relationships. Now, this is what has allowed my wife and I to not feel the weight and the burden of the church in our home. Never. In pastoring 15 years, 20 plus years in ministry, our home has never felt the weight of ministry. I'm not saying there's no burden or care for people. That's not what I'm talking about. Because there's a burden for people. There's a deep concern and love for people. That's different from having the weight of ministry being on your heart and affecting your relationship. I've seen it where there is finance. I've seen where it's the weight of the ministry has affected how the husband or the wife interacts with each other, the lack thereof, or is just non-existent because the ministry has taken so much from them. No, but I'm talking about prioritizing what matters. We got to prioritize those things that matter. Not saying that it's not on the list, but it doesn't need to be that high on the list. This makes sense? Y'all good? Y'all still with me? Now watch this. Now this is a good segue into Genesis chapter 2, verses 15 through 23. And I told y'all need to be tagging somebody. Y'all need to tag somebody. So this is why I've gleaned from Genesis chapter 2 concerning this, because I wish I was able to put this on a slide, but listen to this statement. God did not give Adam a partner based off of his loneliness. I'm gonna just sit right here before I finish that statement. God did not give Adam a partner. He did not give him a wife based off of his loneliness. He gave Adam a wife based off of, watch this, his readiness. I want y'all to jot that down, take that to heart, write that down. Oftentimes, we think God is going to give us someone or allow us this type of relationship connection and what that looks like based off of our loneliness. God would be doing you a disservice and also someone else that he's going to bring into your life if that's the only reason that he's going to give you somebody is because you're lonely. God gave Adam Eve based off of his readiness. I'm trying to see if y'all going to give me a response on that. God gave Adam a partner, not based off of how lonely he was, off of his loneliness, but based off of his readiness. Once God saw that Adam was ready, then watch what he said. It is not good for man to be alone. He said that later on after he had tended the garden, managed the garden, stewarded the garden, brought the animals before him to see what he would call them. Then he said, it is not good for, watch this, I'm going to use this term. It is not good for this type of man to be alone. I'm paraphrasing. Y'all getting this? Now you should already know where I'm going. Some men need to be alone. Some women, because that's not gender specific, some women need to be alone. Why? Because they're just not ready. But once God evaluated how Adam moved in the earth, I'm just using terms that we can understand. Once God evaluated how Adam moved and interacted and how he navigated in the earth, he looked at that man and he said, that man ready. He didn't say, I'm going to give him somebody because that man lonely. No, he said that man, let's use that woman, that person, that man, that woman, they're ready. I'm not going to give them somebody just because they're lonely. No, I see that they are ready. And he said, it's not good for this man, talking about Adam, it's not good for this man right here to be alone. I'm going to give him somebody because he is ready, not because he's lonely. You can be, and sometimes people base their readiness off of how lonely they are. Well, I hope y'all getting this. I hope y'all sharing this. I hope y'all tagging somebody. I hope you get somebody to go back and watch this later, because I'm not saying that we've cornered the market or we are reinventing the wheel, but I just believe from my experiences that this has been a large part of what the problems are in relationships. We want somebody solely off of the fact that we are lonely. But are you ready? You can be lonely and not ready. You can be lonely and not ready. So instead of praying, say, God, instead of praying this prayer, well, God, I'm just so lonely. God, I just want somebody. God, I just know. God, prepare me. I want to be ready. And how do you know? Here we go. How do you know when you're ready? How do you know when someone's ready? In particular, how do you know when you're ready? When you evaluate how you stand alone. I can't, and I'm talking about when you have purpose, when you have accomplishments, when you have things that you have endeavored to do in your life, and you don't need validation, you don't need likes, you don't need followers. I have always questioned people who have these endeavors in their lives, and it seems like they only have these endeavors to prove something to people or to receive validation from people. This has always been my wife and our motto. I've taught this to my daughter. This has always been the motto of our house. As for me and my house, this is where we get this from. We will serve the Lord. Here's what we should gather from that. What we do in this house is for nobody else. The accomplishments, the endeavors, the dreams, the goals, the aspirations, whatever goes on in this house, it's not for likes, it's not for followers, it's not for validation. It's because of the purpose and the plan that God has for this house. Now, will people glean from it? Can people appreciate what you do? Absolutely. But if you're just trying to accomplish things to receive validation from people, and if it bothers you, let's just get down to it. If it bothers you when somebody doesn't congratulate you, especially in this season we're in now, in this age of social media, If it just bothers you so bad when somebody don't like your post or, or, or comment on it or say this or say that about something that you accomplished, if that troubles you to the point where you're just devastated or so upset and mad, then guess what? You don't stand alone well at all. You don't stand alone well at all. Let's just call a spade a spade. If that bothers you, if you want God, watch this, if you want God to bless you so you can show other people or show somebody else up or to parade it around, you don't stand well. There are some insecurities there. There's something that has not been dealt with in your emotions and who you are. Somewhere along, let's call it like it is. Now, I'm bringing, I'm not certified legally, but I'm bringing my counseling into this session tonight, into this Bible study lesson. This is what I tell people oftentimes during my sessions. If you're that bothered, or if it matters that much to you what people say, what they think, what they don't say, what they think, what they don't think, what they think, what they say, if that keeps you up at night, if that bothers you, then something has not been resolved in who you are. Somewhere, I don't know when or how it happened, but somewhere along the line, you became dissatisfied with who you are. Your accomplishments are not enough. You need someone else to say how accomplished you are. You need somebody to validate your importance. Boy, we getting deep. I hope you land on your couch, because it's going to feel like a couch session. Something has thrown you off. Somewhere along the way, I don't know if it's a regret. I don't know if it's dissatisfaction with what happened in your life or something that you didn't accomplish that you wish you would have, but something has gotten thrown off and you don't stand well just by yourself. Because before Adam stood by himself, he stood before God. Y'all all right? Have y'all shared this? Have y'all shared this yet? Because I'm telling y'all, before we need to be praying for intimacy, we need to be praying that God would give us identity. Y'all need to be jotting that down right there. We're instead of praying and believing God for intimacy, we need to be asking God, God, help me with identity. Give me identity. Before you give me the promotion, before you give me that person, before you give me the opportunity, God, give me identity. What am I saying when I say that? God, give me identity. I want to be comfortable with who I am. I want to be satisfied with who I am. I'm more than just Lisa's husband. I'm more than just Asia's daddy. I'm more than just the pastor of the Lighthouse. I have an identity outside of all of that. And I am satisfied with who I am, where God has placed me. The garden that God has assigned me to tend to, I'm satisfied with that. Stop looking at someone else's vineyard. Stop looking over the fence at someone else's garden. Tend to your garden. God placed Adam. Tend to where God has placed you. If there's something you don't like, tend to it, change it, cultivate it, invest in a little bit more, amend it, adjust it, tend to where you are, and stop being so focused on someone else's garden and tend to yours. And then whatever that is that you've been believing God for, may not always be relationship, but hey, since we're talking about relationships, and then whatever it is that you've been believing God for, it will come, it will show up when God sees that you're ready, not just lonely. Stop. We are in the garden where God placed us. Oftentimes we are in the garden and we're doing nothing but being lonely. And stuff, weeds, briars and thorns, the garden has become overgrown because instead of managing where God has placed you, we become disgruntled and mad and angry and resentful, and the garden is overgrown. And all you got to do is stop, I would say, sulking in your loneliness and what you don't have, and tend to what you do have. Look around you. There's a lot more around you than you think. And tend to that. And when God sees that you're ready, not just lonely, when God sees that you're ready, I don't know about you, and I know the dating pool is a bit contaminated out there from what I've heard. I don't want somebody to find me just because I'm lonely, and I don't want to find somebody just because they're lonely. You should want to find somebody, and you should want to be that person that someone's looking for that is ready. Now, just for the sake of helping each other out tonight, put that in the comment section real quick. I'm not lonely, I'm ready. So that even if you're not there yet, put that statement up there for yourself, for someone else, for the sake of the interaction of the session tonight. I'm not lonely, I'm ready. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. And I just feel led to say to somebody, I pray over your heart, your mind, your emotion, your perspective on who you are, how you see yourself, how you see God and who you are in God. I pray that things would come in line. I pray that God would give you soundness of mind. We don't have time to talk about that, but if you've been in ministry with us for a while, you know exactly what I mean by that. I pray that God gives you soundness of mind. That's stability, assuredness in your stance and in your walk and in the steps that you take. I'm not lonely. God, I'm ready. And if I'm not that yet, I'm gonna say it anyway. God, I want to come out of this just being lonely, and I want you to get me to prepare me to be ready. To be ready. So this is something that, from my vantage point, from my time that I've been in ministry and evaluating certain things, is that people just don't oftentimes stand well alone. They have gotten so distracted with the loneliness until they forget their responsibilities to tend the garden where God has placed them. Hence the title for tonight, Tend to Your Garden. Listen, there are some things in your life that needs to be trimmed back. There are some things in your life, I'm speaking by the Holy Ghost, there are some things in your life that has gotten out of control. And you need to get them back under control. You need to manage those things that have become overgrown in your life. And you need to get them where they're manageable again. Oh, if we had more time tonight, we could give some examples on those things that have gotten out of control, those things that are no longer manageable in your life. But you need to start tending to your garden. You should not want someone to come into your life and your garden is overgrown and it is risky and dangerous. You can't even see if you fish or hunt. You know what I'm talking about when I say this. You can't even see where you're walking, where your feet are when you walk, because things have gotten just that out of control. Why? Because I haven't been managing my well-being. My soundness of mind has gone unkept for too long, and I have only become lonely, and I'm no longer ready. So God, help us not to be just lonely people. Help us to be ready people. Now I'm speaking broad. I'm speaking from a broad perspective. Not just now I'm speaking beyond relationships. Take us out of being resentful and being grateful and content. God, take us out of this being disappointed all the time, and God, take us out of this of hanging our heads down all the time. But God, lift our heads and lift our hearts, lift our emotions. The Bible says He's the lifter of our heads. Look up, look unto the hills from which cometh your help. Understand that all of your help comes from the Lord. Come out of that feeling pitiful and feeling sorry for yourself. No, stand well. Hold your shoulders back. Be confident in who you are and who God has called you to be. The Bible says, and I'm getting ready to close, that as they were in the garden, Adam and Eve, you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again, they were naked, but they were not ashamed. That means they had flaws. They had things. Were things perfect? Absolutely not. Am I saying that we should be perfect where we have everything together? No. But I'm talking about how you stand in the midst of your successes and even in your failures. It all boils down to, it all comes back to, how do you stand? That's when things are going good. How do you stand when things are going bad? You have people, I'm gonna close, this is my second closing. You have, I'm flip-flopping back between life and just regular and ministry. Regular life is, you know what, in ministry. We have people that are trying to do ministry and lead in ministry, but they don't stand well alone. They haven't addressed that issue of how they stand. And that shortcoming, that undealt with issue shows itself in how people lead, how they minister, how they interact, and how they treat people. When you don't stand well, you don't lead well. When you don't stand well alone, you don't lead people well. Because you're going to always be looking for the people to provide something for you that you should have already taken care of before you took that position. I got to get out of here. This is one of the things, you can ask my wife, this is one of the major things that I told my wife way before we became pastors. When we heard the call and accepted the call to come into ministry, the Holy Spirit didn't necessarily put it in these words, but we understood from the conversation that we had in the past. Certain things that we had to get together before we came into ministry. And so now that we understand these terms, God was saying, now that we look back, how you stand alone will determine how you lead others. You will always be pulling on the people, fussing at the people, throwing off on the people, giving these subliminal messages on Facebook at the people. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, I would say, you haven't resolved and dealt with how you stand alone. Before you get the title, before you get the church, before you get the invitations, before you get the assignment, how do you stand when you are by yourself? When you don't have amens, when you don't have the support? How do you stand when you are by yourself? Because if you don't handle how you stand by yourself in private, you will mess up trying to lead people. And that's where you get the exploitation. That's where you get the manipulation coming from. That's where you get people standing in the pulpit and lying to the people, misleading the people for self-gain, all of that. Why? Because they don't stand well. What did I tell you standing well looks like? They don't have integrity. They're not people of honesty. They're not people that are trustworthy, that are selfless, those type things. And that carries over, as I said earlier, into ministry. This is who I am, even if I don't have pastor before my name. This is who I've always been. This is who I am without the title bishop. This is who I am. And this is who I'm going to continue to be. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be this, with or without a church. Because again, ministry, church, that's not the best parts of my life. Absolutely not. I'm gonna give you one scripture. I'm just scrolling through my notes Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Okay? Jot that down in your notes, read that later. I asked some other examples of people in the Bible who stood alone well before God gave them certain things, certain privileges, certain assignments. Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Very familiar text, chapter, I should say, in how Jesus faced temptation alone, how he overcame being alone. Okay? So take a look at that, in how, before he came into ministry, he was led into the wilderness and he had to deal with aloneness. He had to deal with, I'm going to use this term, he had to deal with loneliness. What should we take away from that? There are certain things, again, that we have just got to deal with, y'all, before we start taking on these roles and responsibilities with other people. Y'all good? Y'all good for tonight? I was telling my wife, I said, I wish I had some type of panel where I could discuss this with couples, single individuals, different people from different spaces and walks of life. And I may still do that because I just feel like this deserves further discussion and receive a little bit more insight from this, because I my discernment and also the feedback lets me know that this is a topic, this is an area where people really need answers or looking for answers, need help, those type things. So I may try to pick this up again later. Still been discussing and talking about cranking our glean sessions back up. May just have and create space and time to discuss that and have further discussions and insight on this during that session. But we'll see what the Holy Spirit says and how the opportunity he presents to us and what that looks like. So real quick, it's almost 8:00. Give me your responses for this lesson tonight. If this lesson has been a blessing to you, if it has been insightful to you, encouraging, informing to you tonight, give me the appropriate virtual response tonight. Pastor, I was blessed, encouraged, informed, reminded, motivated, whatever that is, whatever it looks like to you. Let's give those virtual responses as we prepare to sign off. I encourage you all, if you know someone who needs to go back and watch this, hey, let them know. Hey, say you need to go watch that replay of Sunday's service past and also the Bible study session for tonight. We tried to do this lesson justice tonight, but with the limited amount of time that we had, this alone could have been a series. Y'all know I'm a series preacher. I've been a series preacher for 15, 16 years. And this alone, but take time, take those few scriptures, take those nuggets, those things that we mentioned tonight, and make it a part of your personal devotion time. Don't just go past this, but continue to glean from it. See what the Lord is telling you, what he's saying to you. Tomorrow morning, Friday, Saturday, moving forward, moving forward. Just allow the Lord to speak to you. Deal with who you are. First and foremost, God, I want readiness. I want readiness before I want intimacy. I want identity before relationship. And as you do that, I truly believe, y'all, that again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We haven't solved all the world's problems, but I just believe that this brief, short session that we've had tonight that extends from this past Sunday, it'll really help a lot of people. Again, it'll at least help them get on the right track and get headed in the right direction where they need to be going. So thank you for your feedback. Thank you so much for your interactions. Um, remember, Brother Watkins just put it on the screen. Remember, if you haven't done that assignment that I gave you all from this past Sunday, still take that seriously, and if you have time, do that. Write at least 5 things that make you a good catch. And we use that phrase because it was Valentine's Day weekend. But describe who are you? Who are you? Outside of being a dad and a mom and a wife and a husband. No, who are you? If all of that was taken away right now, who are you? So, I think we're 7:54. Yeah, we're right where we need to be. So, I'm continually praying for you all. I pray that this again has been a blessing to you all as well. If you're able to join us on this coming Sunday, we invite you to come and be a part of our Black History service that's coming up on Sunday at 11 a.m. We're going back to our regular times. We know we had this past Sunday, we started at 10:45 a.m., but we're going right back to our regularly scheduled times for service. 9:30 a.m. Adult Sunday School will conclude at 10:45 a.m. Morning worship service start at 11 a.m. We're looking for a wonderful time in the Lord. I'm going to be still utilizing the All Things New series references, and I'm just going to apply that to our Black History celebration coming up on this coming Sunday. So you'll still hear me mention all things new. I won't let the cat out of the bag, but I do want to entice you a little bit. The opportunities, the experiences, the changes that have taken place, they closely relate to this series theme title, All Things New, because of the investments, the sacrifices, the blood, sweat, and the tears, the concern, all of that has contributed to where we are today and still moving forward. All things new. We stand on the shoulders of those that have gone before us, and we say all things new. We have left what was, and we are now in that new thing and continues to go into the new thing that God is continuing to do in our lives, in particular as people of color. I'm excited about this coming service. I'm excited about our history. I'm excited about what we've accomplished and what we are still yet to get done in this earth. So, looking forward to you joining us on this coming Sunday. Remember, wear your African attire, your Black attire, your African people of African descent attire, Black excellence, Black accomplishments, all those type things. Come ready to celebrate the goodness of God. Let's come ready to hear what God has to say to us all. And again, we're emphasizing the service as people of color, people of African descent. So we're looking forward to that as well. All right. I think that's pretty much everything that we have for tonight. I don't see my wife posting anything, but I think let's remind the ladies of the women's conference coming up at the end of this month. And I don't have the exact dates, but I think it is next weekend. I'm pretty sure. So if you haven't signed up or registered for the women's conference, you still have time to do that. I'm not sure if the early bird registration is still open, but we do need for you to let us know if you will be utilizing the bus transportation for the weekend of the women's conference. There should be a sign-up sheet in the foyer area concerning that. And if not, you can see Sister Clark, you can see my wife, you can see Sister Tracy concerning transportation. If you would like a women's conference t-shirt, you can see them for that as well. I thank God for an active church. I thank God for a church that loves to do ministry, that loves people, and they love God. And with that being said, grace and peace, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And as always, may God continue to strengthen your hands for the work that he has for us all. Grace and peace, everybody. You all have a wonderful rest of your evening.